third person I want to talk about is the chap that, Congressman Moran, you've been very helpful for us with, Lieutenant Colonel Bradley. He's a British resident. He's from London. He was seized by the Pakistani immigration authorities at Karachi Airport on the 10th of April 2002 when he was trying to take a plane back to Britain. Now, he was interrogated by both the US and by the British in Pakistan. The British said to the United States that he was a nobody, a janitor, and indeed he was a janitor from Kensington. Nevertheless, the US came to the conclusion that he knew more than he was saying, so they rendered him. You know, when I went to law school in New York at Columbia many, many years ago, it never occurred to me that one day I would be sitting across the table from one of my clients talking to him about how my government took him to Morocco, and it wasn't on some Club Med vacation, and they had him tortured for 18 months, including, and excuse me for saying this in public, they took a razor blade to his penis. And talk about photographs. We know the name of the woman, the US personnel who took the pictures of his genitals when he was taken back into US custody on January the 21st, 2004. We've done a lot of investigation on this. I'd be glad to give you the names. Please issue a subpoena. I would be very grateful if you would issue a subpoena for me. There are some things I can't talk to you about here because they're classified. I can't talk to you about, you know, if I happen hypothetically to have photographs of things that would be helpful. I wish someone would subpoena me because I would love the opportunity for the world to see, or you guys to see, such issues that perhaps would go beyond merely taking my word for some of the things that Binyam has told me. But, you know, the problem with all of this process, all we ask for someone like Binyam Mohamed is give him a fair trial or send him back to Britain. And you're quite right, Congressman, to say the Europeans should step up to the plate. I'm glad to say that largely through bullying through my office, we've got them to take 4 people so far, and we're trying to help out a little more on that. But the British government...
Because you made reference, just say, I think it's time for our European friends, to put up or shut up. And it's very easy for them to put up. If they feel that we've done a tremendous amount of wrong here, let them take in these people. And we may well have done wrong with a number of them. We need to admit that and not to have policies where some of these things happen. But if they are so outraged as they suggest, put up or shut up. Take these people in. Or quit yakking as if you're morally superior to us.
Well, and I agree with that. But, you know, we've got to do another thing from our end, because when the British finally did take 4 British residents back who were not British citizens, what the Department of Defense did here was the moment the British had done that, doing us a favor, they issued these ridiculous press releases where I was threatening them with defamation litigation, where they wanted to say, well, we didn't make a mistake after all, so let me tell you how bad these dudes are. We cannot ask our allies to do the right thing and then stab them in the back the moment they do the right thing. There was an agreement between the British government and our own government not to do that briefing against these people. We did it, and we embarrassed them. So, you know, there's 2 sides to this story, but I'll tell you one thing. The British government has agreed to take Binyam Mohamed home. They're begging for him to come home right now. And we need to send him back to Britain and let the British take responsibility for him. Because if we don't, we are embarrassing our closest ally. I speak as a schizophrenic here since I got a British passport too. But we sued the British government just 2 weeks ago because they've got evidence that Binyam was tortured. They've got evidence that they told the United States he was a janitor in Pakistan. They've got evidence that they knew he was going to be rendered to Morocco, and they're going to have to turn it over to us. And a British court will order them to turn it over to us. And if we leave them in the position that Binyam Mohamed is being held in Guantanamo Bay, it is my job, sadly, to embarrass the British government and force them to turn that evidence over. But it's not a nice thing for us as Americans to do, to put them in that position. So in this context, I think Binyam Mohamed is certainly a strong example of why we need to be closing Guantanamo Bay. But let me conclude. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just say, I can confirm this. His sister is an American citizen and a constituent of mine, lives in Northern Virginia. We can verify everything that Mr. Stafford Smith has said. Not that he would be questioned, but I know this to be wholly.
I realize I don't want to cut anybody short, but we do have 2 other witnesses we want to hear from, and then we're going to request that you stay. while we go to vote. But I think that, and let me implore you to stay, because this is too important to hearing not to have the benefit of an exchange with all of you, because I believe this is the first time that many Americans will have heard this from people who know what they're talking about and are not trying to paint a picture that is so, I don't want to use the word false, but I will.